Now, disturbing new details are emerging about a University of Pittsburgh project that harvests organs from aborted fetuses, including aborted babies whose hearts were still beating at the time their organs were removed. The conservative nonprofit Judicial Watch reported last week that it obtained hundreds of pages of public records requests that detail the university's interest in harvesting fetal organs for its project, which received at least $2.7 million from the Department of Health and Human Services. What else was discovered? Joining me now to talk about this is Dan Bartkowiak, Director of Communications at the Pennsylvania Family Institute, an associated organization of FRC Actions in Pennsylvania. Dan, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Good to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you, though. I'm not glad about the story we're discussing here. And tell people, you're there on the ground in Pennsylvania. What's happening? What have you learned?
Yeah, well, certainly experimenting on aborted babies is sadly nothing new at Pittsburgh. But what we're finding is now the public is starting to find out more about it. David DeLayden, Center for Medical Progress, Judicial Watch, had a Freedom of Information Act request that revealed some documentation, some of the racist claims they make, really some of the barbaric things they do on babies up to 42 weeks and pregnant up to birth. And sadly, what came out of that is also Pitt, a spokesman, revealing how they may be doing illegal activity by babies born alive and then harvested for organs. So the babies are alive and then they're taking out parts of their body. It's disgusting, it's inhumane, and it's frankly illegal. I mean, we're talking about things that Kermit Gosnell is in prison for, by babies born alive and then being killed. That's potentially what's happening at Pittsburgh. So the need for more information is absolutely critical. We have an attorney general, governor that frankly are in the hand of Planned Parenthood. There's staff at Planned Parenthood that is at the University of Pittsburgh. So we need more information. There was a hearing several weeks ago that looked at this issue, was trying to find out more information. Pitt sent over someone that's not even involved in their experimentation process with aborted babies. And so often it was heard, you'll have to ask someone else. You have to ask someone else. We need answers right now because of what's happening, especially because of what, in their own words, University of Pittsburgh revealed about potential illegal activity. I mean, they're taking babies that are alive and harvesting their kidneys, their brains, and it's just disgusting. It's absolutely cruel and needs to be exposed as soon as possible.
Now, Dan, it's grisly, it's terrible, it's disgusting. There's a lot of words that could be used to describe this. But how do these public records tell us this? Is this something they actually document? Do they write down the fact that they are harvesting organs from babies who are still alive?
Well, they're using information, kind of medical terms, but I essentially what it is before the process of sending an aborted baby to be experimented on, they are revealing that they're operating on these babies prior to the blood flow being completed. So essentially, we are trying to find out exactly what Pitt is doing because they're somewhat revealing some of this potential illegal activity, yet they're not providing answers. They're not providing the exact details of what they're doing. And remind everyone, this is taxpayer funded. As you said, up to $3 million in just this most recent study alone from taxpayer funds to use for these experiments. And I mean, we're talking about experiments that are grafting aborted babies' scalps onto lab rats. It's incredibly inhumane, unethical, and it's backed by taxpayers. So the need to fully understand what Pitt is doing is absolutely critical. Transparency, we've heard from our governor here in Pennsylvania throughout his time that he wants to be as transparent as possible. If we're transparent to taxpayers, we should know what they're doing with our tax dollars on these aborted babies.
Talking to Dan Bartkowiak for the Pennsylvania Family Institute. Dan, you mentioned earlier that there was a racist component to this. What did you mean by that?
Well, in some of the limited documents that were revealed, they shared how they would want to have the aborted babies, half of them white and half of them minority. I mean, you're talking about a county, Allegheny County, that's 80% white, and yet they're trying to have a quota set up to know how many Black babies, how many Asian babies that they are aborting on. I mean, it's disgusting, some of the things that they're trying to get away with. And they've been able to do this for years. So much is happening at the University of Pittsburgh, being a hub for abortion training, a hub for these just grotesque experiments. And they're all doing it right under our nose, using our tax dollars. So finally, people like David Daleiden, Center for Medical Progress, are finally really helping to expose. People around the state are up in arms over what's happening. And there was a rally at the campus of Pitt. There's finally more pressure being put on the University of Pittsburgh to frankly end these inhumane, unethical, taxpayer-funded experiments on aborted babies.
Now, there's also some indication this is happening in late term, right before birth, in late term pregnancies. But isn't abortion illegal in Pennsylvania after 24 weeks? How do they get away with that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We see in some of the documentation here in PA, they have up to 24 weeks, 6 months in pregnancy, which is still absurd. Babies survive born at that stage. Yet they get babies elsewhere in the country. So you could get a baby aborted at 38 weeks in a different state, then they're brought to Pittsburgh to be experimented on. I mean, it's disgusting what is allowed through the quote unquote experimentation process, through science. This is not science. This is just inhumane treatment of human beings. And it needs to be exposed. It needs to be fully investigated, and it needs to stop.
In your judgment, what should have been happening that would have prevented this?
Well, I think more transparency. There's just not enough evidence. I mean, back in the 50s, there's evidence of showing Pittsburgh, prodding against babies that were born and essentially left to die. I mean, they've been doing this for decades. We need people that actually stand up that says this needs to end, this needs to stop. Just because it's dealing with abortion, this political football that we use, this is the treatment of human beings. And we need finally elected officials. We need the public to finally say enough is enough. This needs to stop.
Dan Bartkowiak, Pennsylvania Family Institute, really appreciate your time and attention to this. And we will be in touch because this is definitely not the end of the story, and we are going to continue to track it. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Joseph.